fall back on that as an excuse. Did you spread that message at all, going into that game, not looking for excuses? Because they would have been built in. I mean, you guys faced a lot in those couple days.
We never make excuses. We don't make excuses about anything. Period. That's not what we do. We don't make excuses.
Okay, we're going to do a little compare and contrast here. So that was Belichick speaking earlier this season about not making excuses, but listen to what he had to say yesterday on WEEI in Boston about the lack of depth.
I mean, look, we paid Cam Newton $1 million. I mean, it's obvious we didn't have any money. It's nobody's fault. That's what we did the last 5 years. We sold out and won 3 Super Bowls, played in the 4th, and played in an AFC Championship game. This year we had less to work with. It's not an excuse. It's just a fact.
All right, Jeff Saturday back with us. He knows what it's like to have battles against the New England Patriots. But Stephen A., I'll start with you here. Do you think Bill Belichick has a point?
He absolutely has a point. It's a matter of fact. I don't think it's an excuse at all. He's giving you facts. And I think his reputation precedes him because he is absolutely right. When have we heard Bill Belichick making excuses? I mean, you can make a legitimate argument that it was when he tried to explain, the error in footballs involving Deflategate, but that's about it. When you watched him talk about the New England Patriots as a football team and you watched him talk about games that have transpired, the results that emanated from them and what have you, you didn't hear him making excuses. And in this particular case, he gave you fact. He talked about for the last 5 years, listen, we went all in. What did we do? He said we said we clearly didn't have any money. We spent all our resources over the last 5 years. And what did we do? We went to 3 Super Bowls, okay? We went to an AFC Championship game. He's absolutely right. Those are points of fact. And so I think that when you look at it from that perspective and you look at the level of success that he's had, it to me, what I find to be ultimately cruel about Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots is that they enjoyed unprecedented success spanning 20 years. And the very first season that Tom Brady is gone, suddenly they're struggling. But they ain't just struggling because of football. If it was just football, I get it. But when almost, I think, 8 or 9 different players, including Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung and these boys, don't show up because of COVID-19. When your starting quarterback catches COVID-19, he catches the Rona, okay? When Stephon Gilmore, the same thing happened to him, arguably the best cornerback in the game. When numerous times Patriots facilities had to be shut down because of the virus. And we're sitting up here and talking about Bill Belichick and wondering whether or not it's excuses. Listen, if it's an excuse for him, I got news for you. All of us make excuses. All of us should be crucified because to enjoy the success that he has had over the last 19 years and literally the very first season, he doesn't have the catalyst that sparked it all for him, which is Tom Brady, all right? And COVID-19 comes down, and we talking excuses. I just think that's incredibly, incredibly unfair to him. I can't do that to him. I really, really can't, because that's basically implying we never thought you were great at all, and that would be utter nonsense because we know how great of a football coach he is.
First of all, is he making excuses? Well, I don't think he is. I think there's a difference between, when people say everything happens for a reason, I don't believe that the same way other people do. But everything does happen for a reason. It's literally true that cause and effect exists, right? So if you want to explain cause and effect, that's one thing. An excuse is when you don't take responsibility for what happened. Is he doing that? It doesn't sound like it quite to me, but let me say something. I don't think he's really able to say what he means. This is what really happened with the Patriots. You know when you hear a guy restructures his contract constantly? That frees up cap space for the team usually. It gives the player more money in the short run and restructures to lower the salary cap for the team. But what you're doing is you're kicking the can down the road. So you can prorate bonuses and stuff over years, like Jerry Jones invented this after he ushered in the salary cap. That's how he signed Deion Sanders. But eventually you got to pay the piper. And what Belichick was trying to do towards the end of Tom Brady's career, as he saw it, Brady in fact is still going, was get out of paying the piper. We can get out of the Brady situation and hand the ball to Garoppolo, who I think can do more or less what Brady can do, probably less, but still we can compete with him every year, and we don't ever have to pay the piper on Brady. Brady did an end around to the owner, went around the GM and coach to the owner, Kraft, told him what was up, obviously, right, as was reported, and what was the upshot. The owner goes to the GM, Bill Belichick, says, you're going to send Garoppolo out of town. Now, Belichick didn't want to do that. I don't think it's because he thought Brady gave them a lesser chance to win that season. But I do think he thought we have a chance to have a smooth transition here to manage our cap space, to get out of having like a cap hit on a Brady deal, and to go forward remaining competitive. And that's not what happened. That's why when Belichick says we sold out to get to those 3 Super Bowls, that's what he means. Brady wound up being a $13.5 million cap hit for the Patriots, dead money. That's what really affected their salary cap. Now, I'm not arguing. I don't know if Belichick is either. That was the wrong move because you went to 3 Super Bowls. You won 2 Super Bowls. That's a great thing. Is that better than going to the playoffs 10 straight years and winning 2 or 3 Super Bowls over that time versus doing this and maybe having a dry spot for a year or 2? That's debatable, right? He's not arguing they did the wrong thing. He's explaining why this thing happened, but he can't come out and say, look, the owner tied my hands in terms of the cap because of Brady, so he sounds like this. And to some, it may sound like an excuse.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you. I will say this with reference to Bill Belichick. Listen, the salary cap is what it is. Had they wanted more players on this football team, could they have made things work? Everybody can do those things. I think he understands when he looks at the landscape of his football team. And Stephen A., you made the point great, right? When you bring up the COVID list, the notable injuries, all those kinds of things, there was nowhere to really go because of the talent on his football team. So he knows it. So what are you going to do? You're going to kind of grin and bear it. And I think that's where he is. I agree with you as far as the excuse making. If he is making an excuse, great, right? I mean, this is the best coach in the NFL history. He's explaining the facts. If you think it's an excuse, facts, excuses, whatever, however everybody wants to frame it. If you hate him, that's what you're going to say. If you love him, you're going to say the other thing. But when I do look at this football team, whether Garoppolo was there or whether Brady stayed there, this offense was going to struggle this year irrespective of that. They have not done a good job of putting the pieces and parts around offensively. This team was built to win defensively last year, and it was going to be the same way this year. So when the opt-outs hit them as heavily as it did on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's really where it set him back. And now we're asking Cam Newton. And again, Cam Newton played a decent game actually against Buffalo until the fumble at the end of the game. But when you're looking at what he can do, they were thinking, man, we're going to play complementary football. We're going to play good defense. We're going to run the ball at you. We're going to try to keep these things going. Hopefully Cam can make some good throws, keep us in games. They're going to be tight, but we're going to find ways to win. What they've done is they've done what other teams, they've just made the mistakes that have cost them. So how the cap is structured and what they could do in the cap, all those, I always think people kind of go back and say, oh, well, we can't because. If they wanted somebody, they'll find a way to do it. How could Tampa get as much as they're getting, right? At some point, guys can go make play. They can get what they want on the cap the same way anything else in business. They want you enough, they're going to find a way to get you. I don't think this season has gone according to plan more because of what's happened on the defensive side of the ball in Patriot land as opposed to offensively.
That said,
and again,
hold on,
Bill
Max.
Belichick deserves.
Hold on, Max, because I got a question for both of y'all.
He gets a pass.
Good.
Hold on. I got a question for both of y'all. If anybody else in any other sport, because we've seen this happen where teams may have sold out, sacrificed seasons or whatever the case, past or in the future, just to win, just to put themselves in positions to win the chip. This man went to 3 Super Bowls, won 2, won the 4 AFC championship games. So I guess for me, how can anyone justify in y'all mind, I'm asking the question here, How can anyone justify in y'all mind even asking the question, is Belichick making an excuse? Because to me, even if he said, hey, you know what? You could call it an excuse all you want to. This is what happens, which is essentially what he's doing. I don't understand how anybody can have a problem with it if you want.
I have an answer. When I said Brady left the cupboard bare, this is what I meant. I was referring to the Garoppolo situation and the cap hit it was going to take. I couldn't anticipate COVID and the defense, opting out and all that stuff, as Jeff points out. But that's what I meant. And so what we were looking at this year is, who is it more, Belichick or Brady? And because in the absence of Brady, for the first time we hear an explanation from Belichick, we've never had to have one before because they always have winning records, right? That sounds like an excuse. And then people's antenna go up and say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe the Patriot way was the Brady way and not the Belichick way, because that's what we're asking. What is it more of? I'll just remind people of this. Even with everything we said, Cam getting COVID, practice facility shutting down for weeks on end, defense not showing up before the season because of COVID, right? They're literally not on the team. Injuries to a meager offense as it was. Cam holds on to the ball against Buffalo and successfully punches it in against Seattle. We're talking about a 4-3 team with wins against the Dolphins, Raiders, Seattle, and Bills, right? We're having a completely 2 plays. Everything that was just said, it came down to 2 plays this season, going from, oh my God, what a success story, to what a dumpster fire, right? 2 plays.
Hey, let me say this too.
Yeah.
This, and Max, you just brought up a great point. This whole Belichick versus Brady, who was it, is the most ridiculous argument that anybody can bring up. It was both and, not either or. So anybody who's on the train that one guy would have done this without the other guy is lying to themselves. There was something about the 2 of them, and both of them were at the best at what they did, and they joined this thing up. Stop trying to divide something that would, in 20 years, historically the best football team in the NFL history, and that you have to make it an